Agency Podcast with your host, Noah Ravoy.
Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about money. For money is for a lot of people a dirty subject. They don't like to talk about it. They feel uncomfortable. And yet they're suffering from money-related problems. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. They're deeply in debt, and they don't know how to get out of it. Even worse, they have no clue about how to help their children and to create an intergenerational legacy of financial wealth instead of financial debt and struggling. And this is really because people are viewing money as something that is, they just don't want to be, think about. And this is low agency behavior. And what we're doing today is promoting some high agency thinking with Nate Dean. And he's a money master. He's going to share with us information about how we can improve our agency related to money and develop financial sovereignty. Welcome, Nate.
Hey, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. I had a lot of recommendations on Twitter to interview you. A lot of people are saying, yeah, you got to get Nate on. You got to get him on. He's got great stuff. His courses are effective. Even some people that weren't specifically messaging to me were saying about, raving about the information that you'd given them, how it had helped them. And so I thought, yeah, let's get Nate on, because finances is one of the big areas in which people need to exercise agency. They need to have control of their resources, because a lack of resources limits your ability to act in the world, limiting your agency. What do you do for people, Nate? How do you help them?
Well, I have a financial education business, and we just teach people how cash flow strategy can be just as powerful as investing in and of itself, which is something we are not taught in school. We're taught the only way that we can actually grow our money is to invest it. But there's actually a strategy that goes with money that people have been using for decades, and it's simply called the principle of leverage. And understanding how leverage works and how powerful that can be in your life, and the fact that most people who are very novice when it comes to money concepts would tend to associate the word leverage with risk. But the reality is there's ways to apply leverage in your life that does not involve risk, which sounds too good to be true. And I understand that. But we just teach people the principle of leverage and how powerful that can be in their life, and how they can create a system to effectively secede from the current system that we're in right now with central banks and the way we have been so dependent on banks, throughout our existence, at least, since we've been breathing. So we just show people, like you said, just how to be more sovereign in their personal finances.
Yeah, I remember generations ago, my grandmother told me that generations ago, up until about the First World War, my family never used the bank because they lived in a community together it is a big extended family. And if someone got married, everyone chipped in and gave them a house. A starter home was your wedding gift. So no one had to borrow money to get a house. And once they had a house, they had equity and could start building from there. So they were never in debt. They never owed anybody anything. And they were always building wealth intergenerationally instead of losing. It's unfortunate that they didn't continue that pattern after the First World War. But this is something I think a lot of people want to reestablish. Trust in big institutions is at an all-time low. And people don't want to put their money in places where they can get canceled. If they can cancel a president of the United States and shut down his bank accounts, what can they do to ordinary people like us?
Right.
And it's I think very important. People are starting to seek that financial sovereignty, that separation from the financial system, which they don't trust anymore.
Well, your money has to reside somewhere at all times. It's got to go somewhere. It's either, you either put it under the mattress, you put it in a bank, you invest it. Money has to go somewhere. But in order for money to safely reside somewhere, we have been taught that traditional banks, savings accounts, things like that, if we're going to store money somewhere, that's where we have to store it, because we'll get a little bit of interest on it. We won't have to worry about it disappearing or anything like that. It's, quote, safe. The reality is it's very, very risky, because if you just factor in inflation alone, when you put money in a savings account, your money is going backwards. because the amount of interest that those banks are paying on that savings account is not anywhere close to inflation, which means a dollar that you're saving today is worth less than it would be or is worth more today than it's going to be tomorrow. So Robert Kiyosaki says savers are losers, and that's what he means by that. You're saving dollars today that are going to be worth less tomorrow, and the more you save dollars that are going to be worth less, the more worthless they become.
And a lot of people don't realize too that anything that's not in your physical possession, that you don't have physical control over, you kind of don't really own. So in Europe, we had some bank bailouts. I think it's been about 7 or 8 years ago, and they literally bailed the banks out by taking half of people's accounts. And oh, you got 60 grand? Nope, sorry, you got 30 grand. Now they only did it, I think, on accounts with 60,000 euros or more. But if you're saving a lot of money in the bank, you're exposing yourself to the risk that governments will pass a law like this. And the combined interest of the banks is a lot more politically powerful than our individual diffused interests, and our ability to redress these situations is almost non-existent. Whereas if we have our money tied up in, not tied up, but we have our money invested in different places and set aside in working for us, it's a lot harder to target all through that. The government doesn't like to mess with money that's in the economy. They like to mess with the money that's kind of stable, sitting somewhere, it's savings and things like this, because it doesn't have the same disruptive effect. Otherwise, they end up getting a diminishing return by taking money. But I think that really upset people's, in Europe here, people's confidence in the financial institutions. Your money in your bank, you don't have to worry about bank robbers. You got to worry about the bank robbing you. So it's quite a problem.
Well, and most people don't realize that after the financial crisis in 2008, all of the bank reform, the Dodd-Frank Act, all of that stuff that went into effect, basically flipped the script where the government said, hey, we're not going to bail you out anymore, but now you're actually going to be able to do what's called a bail-in, where the bank takes assets that people have invested into that institution in order to keep it afloat. The reason banks don't go out of business is simply because of people's confidence in them. Because once confidence fails in a bank, the bank is done because of fractional reserve banking. And that's a term that more and more people are becoming familiar with, this idea of money just being created out of thin air. And there's an old term called a run on the bank that we don't hear very much anymore. But back then, that meant people lost confidence in the bank. They got scared for some reason. They maybe just lost confidence in the current economic situation, whatever that may be, and they decided they want to go get their money. Well, if too many people go to get their money on the same day, the bank is just going to give you an IOU. They don't have it.
I remember I once had to get a large amount of cash from the bank, over 20 grand, for a project that I was doing, and I needed to pay out a bunch of people, and I didn't know ahead of time they had to be paid on time. And I had to ask them a week ahead for them to get me 20 grand at the bank. And that's not that much money. You have 20 people come in looking for $1,000 so they can pay their rent and their groceries. And that's here in Europe. In the US, that's just pays your groceries for the month, and bam, that's gone. And it takes them a week to get that together. They have to special order it in because they don't actually have much cash at a bank generally.
Well, you're right. In fact, just the other day, I needed cash for something and went to the bank, and I asked them ahead of time, how much cash can I get out? And they were like, well, you can get out as much as you need. And I just thought, no, that's not true. So unfortunately, they had what I needed, but it was such a small branch that I wasn't confident that they had it on hand. But fortunately, they did. So, but I know that if I would have requested a larger amount, eventually I would have hit that number that they would have said, sorry, we don't have that to give you today. Like, that's not possible. So the idea that you can actually, secede from the system and become your own bank. So to back up a little bit, we teach people how as I said, cash flow strategy can be just as powerful as investing. If people follow me on Twitter, they may have heard this before, but it's a very simple way to explain what we do. And I like to tie it to real estate. So just imagine for a moment that you buy a piece of property in a guaranteed growth market, and you build equity in that property that you have access to all along your life. But not only that, you have the ability to leverage the equity in that property to create your own personal line of credit that you own and control. Where in a normal situation, a line of credit at the bank, you would be paying interest to the bank, but you actually get to earn interest off your own line of credit, which is a crazy concept. Now, the good news is you don't have to invest in real estate in order to develop a system like that, and it can be scaled to whatever your situation is. So what we do is we teach people how to build their own private banking system that they own and control, that gives them the ability to earn interest off of every dollar that flows through their hands, whether they're spending it or saving it.
That's very powerful. And I think, there's probably a network effect too if you're cooperating and working with other people doing this. Not only the sharing of information and the sharing of opportunities, but you can work together to take advantage of opportunities that you can't as individuals. And I really push men to get into fraternities, get into groups, start working with other men, even if it's informal groups. There's a lot of power to be had in that. Do you think that is also a way that people can start to use this this independence to then even take it a step further by working with others,
Well,
creating a whole parallel economy?
well, yeah, and that really goes to a couple different levels. One is just with the clients that we're working with. We've built a community right now. I'm going to use a bad word and call it Facebook. So there's a Facebook group that we have right now. It was just the easiest way to get it set up. We're working on developing something else, but building a community out of like-minded individuals who are learning about this, utilizing this. And the whole reason that me and my business partner even decided to start teaching this concept was because we learned about it, we started implementing it, and we got excited about it. And we knew, man, more people need to know about this. And we're not the only people in the country teaching this, but there's not enough of us out there teaching it. So we just got fired up about it and knew that we could help a lot of people doing this. And we have. It's been a huge blessing to see all the different relationships, all the families that we've been able to help so far. All the little kids that we know one day are going to grow up, that we're going to be working with and helping them, because this is a generational concept. It's education that's going to be passed on from one to the next, and it's going to be impacting generations to come. So all of that is really important for us in building this community of like-minded individuals that are they have the same knowledge base in terms of the concept, but everybody's going to be applying it differently in their lives because there's different ways that you can use it. But also at the same time, the community that we wanted to create, our vision was, with it being a like-minded group, that as someone needs something outside of their scope of expertise, well, there's a community there of like-minded individuals that they could immediately reach out to. So for myself and my business partner, anytime we need something within our business, the first thing we think of is, which one of our clients could we reach out to get help with this? Because we want it to be that reciprocal relationship. Now, to take that to a different step, which what you were talking about earlier, as far as the idea of communities and families helping one another in their finances, and helping them get established for life and everything like that. The system, this banking system that we're able to teach families how to create, is something that really can become a family bank, something that many wealthy families have been using a similar concept for decades now. And it's one of the ways that they maintain generational wealth, is having some sort of education and some sort of system in place that ensures that the family bank never goes down, that it continues to grow. And so this idea that, once my kids get to the point where they're going to need something in life, when they graduate on from high school or college, whatever they decide to do, and they get out into the real world and you're trying to make something of themselves. If they need a car, if they were at one time, they would have just gone down to the bank and gotten a loan for a car because that's what we do. Well, now they can go to the family bank. We can set up terms for that bank because they were going to pay, those dollars were going to be going out the door one way or the other. It doesn't matter. So why not put those inside of the family, inside of an ecosystem, so to speak, where the money is no longer leaking out and it just continues to cycle inside the family. And the more times that you can get money to cycle inside of that system, the stronger the money becomes, the stronger the family becomes.
Yeah, it's conservation of energy. The more money that you conserve in the body of the family and the more that you can add in, it tends to accumulate. If more is coming in than is going out, it accumulates. And that's hard to do when you're a single individual. You can do that. You show people how to do that, but the bigger the group, the easier it is, because very often, maybe I don't need anything. So there's not an opportunity at that moment for me because there's nothing I need and all my money is invested. But someone else in the family needs something and we can fill their need at this time. It makes a big difference. I'm even talking to friends, about the private communities that many people are trying to form nowadays. And some of the people that want to work in these private communities, they have a lot of money and other people have less money. And we've been looking at methods for them to create the private community where you are rewarded for the investment that you put into that, but that all members end up benefiting from these communities. And this is how the West was settled. It was settled by people that would go out and everyone would kick in and invest into creating a small town or village, and it would start to grow from there. And there would be the farms surrounding that would start to have a place in which they could gather to trade and do other things. And really, this was the creation of civilization, was all around finance management and resource management. Essentially, that was what civilization was created around, was a trading and the exchange of goods. And right now, the system that we have is being run with the design to take as much as possible. This is why every time you deal with a financial system, you feel like you just got robbed, because it's trying to take what it can take from you. Whereas if you're parallel to that, if you're creating your own system, you can create something that's truly reciprocal, that has mutual benefit. And I think even, we some of the smaller financial institutions, they even really cater to that. They look more towards that mutual benefit with their clients. Whereas I think a lot of the big institutions, they act like you're lucky to be able to do business with them. And it's really a different attitude when you're in control of your own money. You start to look at things different. You're no longer pleading and desperate for, I need to get a loan. I hope they'll give me this loan for the car that I need. It's more like, where's the opportunity? Let me look for an opportunity that I can find somewhere to put my money, somewhere that it's going to work for me. And that really changes people's stress levels and their view of the whole world. People who are financially insecure, they then tend to feel insecure in their marriages. It's number one cause of marital breakup. They tend to feel emotionally and psychologically insecure. It's one of the main reasons for suicide, or contributing factors. It is really causing massive stress in the world, people's inability to manage their own finances. You mentioned in some of your writings that you're a pastor, and I think that's an interesting point to mention. I also used to be a minister myself, and I think a lot of our care and concern for people, that's often care and concern. We talk about, how is your relationship with your family? How is this? How is that? And there's a lot of effort, it seems, to avoid talking about money. And I think that's because a lot of pastors don't know about money, and they're concerned with giving off a materialistic vibe or something like this. And they end up with a set of very unhealthy mindsets about money. And that actually can get projected down onto the people who are learning from them. And you can end up with, if your church is making you poorer, then you have a problem, because it's undermining your agency. And it's actually setting you up for failure in other areas of life too. If you don't have to worry about your finances, you have more time to spend on your family. You have more time to spend helping your community. You have more time to spend taking care of your own psychological health as well, and your own physical health. And I think it's, how does being a pastor help you to look at your responsibility to help people with financial matters like this, and this education program that you're involved in?
Well, I've been in ministry for 13 and a half years now, something like that. I did youth and music ministry for about 11 and a half years. And then I'm coming up on my third year as a pastor of the church that I'm at right now. And, I've always just had a compassion for helping other people in different ways. So I just have tendencies to look for people who have needs and things like that. I went to school for business and finance. So money has always intrigued me, just causes and effects, things like that. So those two things sort of combined, I see so much of my business as really an extension of my ministry. So people that I'm working with to help them get their finances figured out and things like that, they reach out to me all the time for other things that they want to talk about. So the people in my church, I never wanted to come across as the pastor who's selling something to his congregation or anything like that. So I've had conversations with members of my church about what I do, but I've always left it to them to reach out to me. So if they want to ask me about it, I'm happy to share that with them. But I never wanted to develop a reputation where, oh no, here he comes. He's probably following up with me or something like that. Like I never wanted that to be in the back of their minds. And so I've taken a very careful approach with my congregation, where I've had a few church members who've reached out to me, and I've been able to teach them and educate them. But it's not something that's widely known as far as what I do. But like I said, the beauty of running your own business is you're not subject to someone above you saying, hey, you can't say this, you can't say that. So when I'm on the phone with someone, that I have the ability to pour into them as far as my knowledge of ministry and everything like that, but also recognizing that there's much more to life than just money. So people are always dealing with different struggles, different issues, positive or negative in their life. And, they like the idea of having someone that they can talk to that may have a little bit of wisdom. I don't look my age, but I'm actually coming up on 40 in the next few months. So it's funny when people originally meet me, they assume that I'm, maybe mid-20s, late 20s, 30s, something like that. Clean shaven, I can pass for mid-20s, no problem. But even with a beard, most people don't think that I'm in my late 30s. So when they find out how old I am, they're like, "Oh, this guy actually has a little bit of life under his belt. He's got a little bit of experience and things." And I've done a lot of different stuff and had a lot of different opportunities and a lot of different situations where I've been able to meet people and help them and relate to them. I lost my dad to cancer in 2012, so that's something that when it comes to death of a loved one, that's something that I can always relate to someone with. As rampant as cancer is, that's something that I have a deep tie to anyone else who's going through that. So there's all sorts of different ways that being a pastor, being in ministry has had an impact on my business and my ability to teach and connect with other people.
Yeah, I would say about a third to 2/3 of my clients one of the issues that they're curious or they want to improve in their life is their financial situation. And when I ask them why, it's not because, oh, I want more money so I can buy more stuff. It's almost always, if I had more money, I could, spend time with my dying father, for example. And that's hard to do when you're in a 9 to 5 and you can't get out for a moment. Or, I would like to spend more time with my kids, or, I would like to take my wife on a trip, or it's usually some experience that they want to have with family, and they don't have enough money to make that experience a reality. They don't have the resources necessary. And so this is, I think, highly underestimated. It's not money for the sake of money. If you're rich and living like you're poor and miserly all the time, your money's not doing anything for you. The money doesn't exist so that it can accumulate itself. The money exists so that your life can be better, and so that you can have the experiences in life that are going to help you and make you happy and make those around you happy, and so you can make people's lives better around you. And because of that, it's such an important topic that people talk about and that they have a grasp and an understanding of. In school, you mentioned what we're taught in school about money. In school, we're taught by people who work outside of any financial system whatsoever. So teachers, they're not in a merit-based system. You get into the education system as long as you don't kill a kid. You're going to have a job for life. And I suppose if you do, they'll just move you around to a non-teaching position. So it's pretty much a job for life. It pays well, and you have a guaranteed retirement plan. So you're not learning about money from people that understand about money. And that's a big part of the reason why we're so poorly educated about money. Because in order to teach you, they look in a book and they go, oh, okay, this is what I'm supposed to tell him. And it's not teaching from experience, and you have actual experience. And more importantly than just having experience managing your own money, you have experience helping other people to manage their money. Now you've created a course, and you also do consultations as well. And there's a link in the description of this video to your courses, and you can see from there, I think, also about the consultations. And this is, if you don't know what to do and you're not sure where to go next, call Nate for a consultation. Get in touch with them. I often find that the best first step is talking to someone who can help you clarify your goals and to know what you should do next. And from there, you can start making good decisions. We don't need to know what to do. We just need to know who we can trust to go and start asking questions from. And I think you can trust Nate. He's a guy on Twitter, man. I hear so much about talk to Nate. And so you've built up a really good reputation with a lot of people on there. Never heard a negative thing about you. So it's quite impressive. One of the things that you mentioned in one of your videos is how hard it is to get truthful information about money. And that's interesting. So if it's hard to get truthful information, that means a lot of the information we get isn't truthful. How can people tell the difference between the truthful and the not truthful information?
Well, conventional wisdom in most cases is broken when it comes to money. The reason that we say this is the truth is because 2 + 2 = 4. Math is something that people can't argue with numbers. So the reason that we say this is the truth is because we show you with numbers how this is possible, how this works. And we just kind of pull back the curtain a little bit on everything that everybody else is doing and why we believe that there's a better way. And I have I take a lot of pride in the way we have built our business, because our philosophy is we're just going to be excellent stewards of the information, and then we just let God take care of the rest. So when we are educating someone, there is a decision at some point if they decided that they wanted to continue to work alongside with us in our program and helping them get their banking system set up and all that stuff. Then there is a decision that has to be made at that point. But all the education and everything leading up to that point, even the custom plan that we design for them, is all included in the course. And at that point, it is all left in their hands. Like, we don't use any sort of closing techniques or sales tactics or anything like that. We just want to be excellent resources for people and make sure that they're equipped to make the best decision for themselves. You know, someone may go through our entire process, learn everything that we teach them, and ultimately at the end of the day say, I think I'm better off doing something else. That's great. We're still going to be friends. So we don't hold anything against anyone for someone who goes through our process and decides not to take action. Because of what we know, we feel bad for them that they're not taking action, but that's up to them. So, you know, giving those tools that people need that are necessary is really vital, because no one has ever gone through our process and said, you lied to me. Like, I've never had that happen. Like you said, no one has ever called me out on Twitter. Nobody's ever said anything bad about me on Twitter. And the course itself is something that is 100% refundable. Like, I will never take $1 from someone that I'm not willing to turn around and hand right back to them, because I'm not trying to trick anybody into learning. I'm not trying to, you know, whatever. There's what's the term? Grifters out there where they're just trying to, you know, swindle people out of money and get it however they can get it. Like, that's not me. So if someone goes through the process and they see the value in it, say, hey, I'd like a refund. We don't even ask them why they want a refund. We're just like, all right, process it right there on the spot, right back to you. No problem. Hey, thanks for checking it out. Done. That's it. Here's what's kind of funny though. We've had a couple people who have requested refunds and then came back to us later and said, hey, you know what? I just realized that everything that you had just taught me in that course was 100% true. And they said, can I buy the course again and get back into your program? And they did. I mean, that was their decision, but they went out and did their own research to see that what we were saying was accurate. And that's one of the things we encourage people to do is, hey, if you don't want to just trust and take our word for it, go do your own research. Go look out, go find this stuff for yourself and make your own educated decision. When I started learning about this, you know, I called my buddy Brandon, who's my business partner. I said, dude, I started learning about this. It's crazy. There's something to it. I think I need you to check it out and see what you think. And so together, he and I just really started vetting it to make sure, because he was a middle school principal at the time in a small community. So he had a strong reputation to uphold. Me being a pastor, being in ministry, I had to make sure that I maintained my reputation. So whatever we were about to dive into personally and potentially just tell people about, we had to make sure that it was going to be legit. We couldn't afford to ruin our reputations or anything like that. So we had to make sure that we vetted this properly before we even started sharing it with anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to understand that too. You know, if you want to get advice from someone, you have to check out where they came from, check out the background, go look at what you can look. Go on Twitter, follow him as well. I'm going to, it's Chronicles of Nate. No, Chronicles of Nate on Twitter.
Chronicles of Nate is my name on Twitter, but I didn't realize this when I set up my account that Twitter was going to take out the of. So my @ is just Chronicles Nate.
Okay, Chronicles Nate. Excellent. No, so it's, you know, go check them out on Twitter. Ask around. This is one of the best things about having a public reputation is people can ask, what do you think of, and then, you know, who you want to check out, and people can check them out. And that kind of social trust helps to build your belief that someone can help you. But like Nate said, go check out the course. If you look at it and it's not for you, they'll give you a refund. But I think it's interesting, the people that purchase, get a refund, and then come back again. When you find out that you have been lied to for a long time about something as important as money, and you realize that what you thought you knew is wrong, that causes, I think, a lot of emotional pain. People realize that, and that could have been why they want that refund. No, this can't, it can't be true. I could have been lied to all this time. It's not possible. And so there's this emotional rejection of this. And then you get over that after a few days, and then you come back and you ask some of your friends, and some people are like, oh yeah, I heard about something like this, and you check it out and you find out it's real. I think a lot of people are going to have to come to some real hard realizations about how they're managing their financial life in the next few years. I think we're getting close to the end of easy credit. Interest rates can't stay zero or sub-zero forever, because it completely destroys money. And we're also at the edge of where fiat currency can take us at the moment. We're potentially facing collapses of fiat currency. And so people are going to have to come to these hard realizations. And there is an emotional aspect to it. It's surprising, you mentioned you've been interested in money because of the logic and how the money flows. And that's an extremely male, masculine answer. It's very masculine. I like money because it's interesting. And for many people, it's an incredibly emotional topic. And it's really tied in with their views on themselves, their views on work, their views on so many different things. And for them to realize that they need to make a 180, and they need to, wisdom that they probably had told other people, oh yeah, do this, do that. The way to wealth is don't drink a coffee in the morning, or whatever it happens to be. And they've told other people this advice, they've repeated the bad advice they've gotten. Suddenly they realize not only were they lied to, but they perpetuated these bad ideas. And it's difficult for people. And I think that passing through that discomfort of realizing that you need to majorly realign a big part of your life. And for men, we have the responsibility to look after our families, to look after our communities. Especially when you're a religious man, you realize the need also to look after your extended community as well. There is a need for that there. And for us, our ability to earn incomes, to have money, and to manage our money is a big part of our responsibility as men, and something that we can't neglect. And something that it's very important for us to get quickly over that hump and say, okay, now I need to make a change, realign with the new reality. And that's, your course is going to help people do that very quickly. I listened to a few of the videos from the course. They're very well done. They're very clear, and they get you thinking differently right away. Well,
I think this is something you said in your book, or maybe it was just a thought that I had from your book, when you were talking about pride earlier. Pride has built and destroyed a lot of men. Pride is one of these interesting things where too much of it can get you in trouble, and too little of it can get you in trouble. And one of the things I say often whenever I'm sort of promoting my course is, hey, drop your pride. Let's, drop your pride. Let's learn something. What's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen is you learn something new, because there's no risk to losing money, because I'll refund you no matter what. So the worst thing that can happen is you're going to learn something new. The best thing that can happen is it's going to change your life the way it changed my life.
Yeah, it is that psychological aspect, dropping your pride, getting over it, and being willing to learn. When you start to learn something from someone, you have to adopt the master learner mindset for a period of time, and you have to realize that now you're a learner. And if you trust the master, you have to sit and absorb the information. And this helps you very rapidly to pick up information and integrate it into your thinking. And it's not just a set of instructions, go do these things, but I think it's a different way of thinking about money as well. I was listening to what you're promoting, and you're promoting I think a more healthy way to think about money. And it's almost like a game in a way, the way it's set up. It's like a game. And you're showing how to play that game with proficiency. And as a man, we seek proficiency. We seek mastery of the things that we're engaged in. Every single man is engaged in resource management. We're all resource managers. We all make money, we manage the money we make, and we do things with it. And talking to Nate's going to help you to do more with your money and to get more done with the resources you have, to get more resources, and to be a higher agency manager and steward of you and your family's finances out into the future. Was there anything else that you wanted to share with us, Nate?
Man, I can't think of anything at this time. I really appreciate you having me on. It's always a privilege and an honor to be asked to come on and share. It's something I'm very passionate about, something that I have the privilege of teaching and educating people and talking to them daily on. So it's always something that's fun for me to be able to get that information out to other people.
Yeah, a lot of the conversations I've had in the last year with clients and friends, and as part of groups that we're working to help each other, have been really overlapped with what you've brought out in this discussion and what you have in your course. And so I think there's a lot of people, this is the answer that they're looking for. This will clarify a path forward so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel. They have a place they can come and take a pattern and start going on it. Thank you very much for joining us today, Nate. Looking forward to in the future meeting you one day, and perhaps we'll have you on again and we can talk some more about money and finance. Thank you, audience, for joining us today. This has been an excellent episode to help you build your financial agency. Have a good evening.
Thank you for watching our video, and I hope it inspired you to take action in your life. Please subscribe to our channel and like this video to get more agency building content. The real secret sauce is in our newsletter. Click on the link in the video description below to sign up. I promise I won't flood your inbox, and anything that we do send you will be of high value.